He was a leading proponent of the 2008 nuclear deal. That deal ended India's nuclear isolation. It allowed India to buy nuclear fuel and technology. It's also seen as a watershed moment in India-US relations, a deal that put our ties on the upswing. Yes, he had lost some of that influence in the 2010s, but until his arrest, Tellis was still an advisor, someone with access and inputs, so his arrest should worry India as well, especially when you look at his recent commentary. Some of Tellis's recent work questions India's global rise. One article says America has made a bad bet on India because New Delhi will not side with the US against China. Another piece talks about India's so-called great power delusions. It says India's power does not match its ambitions, that India is still lagging behind China. So Tellis had been souring on India recently. He was questioning India's policy and India's trajectory. And amid that, he gets arrested. Naturally, questions will be asked. Why did a cheerleader for India turn against New Delhi? Was there a possible China hand? Well, we'll let the investigators figure that out. But beyond that, these accusations also reveal a pitfall in America's advisory system. Here in India, it is not as common. We depend on career diplomats for advice. Even if we turn to outside advisors, we don't give them security clearance. But in the US, it's all very common. And it's backfired in the past as well. In 2021, a South Dakota man was arrested by the FBI. He was a defense contractor linked to the US Air Force. He was arrested for sharing secret papers with Russia. Another case dates back to 2016. The FBI arrested a contractor in California. Again, he was sharing papers with Russia. Even last year, there was a similar case. A former aviation contractor was charged by American officials. He was allegedly working for Iran. So this practice of contractual advisors has backfired before, yet the US persists with it. It does not just concern American security, it concerns other countries as well. Of course, Tellis has only been accused as of now. Let's see how the case proceeds.
China, first row. China, 67%. That's tariff.
Donald Trump loves leverage. More than closing deals, he likes controlling the terms. And Trump has a big test coming up with China. The trade war is escalating. Both sides are ramping up tariffs and building pressure. And this is happening just days before a possible meeting between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping in South Korea later this month. As always, Trump wants to enter the room with an upper hand. His Treasury Secretary has laid out the strategy. That's Scott Bessent. That's the Treasury Secretary. Bessent says, and I'm quoting, the US expects global support. Support from Europe, from Asian democracies, and from India. That's what Scott Bessent has said. The US expects countries like India to back Washington against Beijing. In fact, he has framed it as China versus the world, and he says America's partners should rally around Trump.
The Chinese economy is doing very poorly, and maybe they're trying to take focus off of that. Two, China, as opposed to the United States is pushing for peace in the world. China is financing war. China purchases of Russian oil is financing the Russian war machine. They purchase Iranian oil, and we have been calling them out on that. So maybe it was to distract from that. And three, maybe it was a mistaken attempt to try to gain leverage before the two leaders meet in Korea in October. And I can tell you, trying to get leverage in front of a meeting with Donald Trump is a bad idea.
It's hard to miss the hubris. The Americans started the trade war. They imposed 50% tariffs on India, which is the highest in the world. They publicly attacked India while India consistently and constructively engaged in talks. And now the same Americans want India's support to end their deadlock with China. New Delhi has not issued a formal response, But there is pressure from both sides. Reports say China has also made demands. This is about rare earth shipments, the minerals that you need to build gadgets. China supplies most of them, and it now wants guarantees from India. What kind of guarantees? That India won't supply these minerals and magnets to the US. That's the promise that China wants. Use the supplies for domestic production. Do not share them with the United States. Another assurance that Beijing wants is this. India should not use these supplies to make weapons. Remember, rare earth magnets are critical components. They are used in electronics, automobiles, and weapon systems. Some Indian companies have complied with China's demand. They have submitted what is called an end user certificate. It says they will be the end users. Plus, these companies have said that they won't use Chinese rare earths for weapons programs. So here's the big picture. On one side, America wants backing. On the other, China wants control, and caught in the middle is India. Neither side is ready to compromise. They're leaning on their partners, hoping to get an advantage. Meanwhile, the tariffs are climbing. China has introduced a slew of new taxes and restrictions on the US. It is taxing American ships at Chinese ports. It has imposed restrictions on rare earths, and it is investigating American companies like Qualcomm. Meanwhile, Trump is making new threats. He says he may block cooking oil exports to China. This is retaliation for Beijing's actions. China has stopped buying American soybeans, so Trump wants to hit back by blocking cooking oil supplies to China. Trump says China's actions are deliberate. They're meant to hurt US farmers. Remember, soybean is a crucial crop, especially for Midwest American states that back Trump. So China's moves are basically hurting Trump's voter base. The US president is also going after Chinese airlines. He says if they're traveling to or from America, they should not fly over Russia. Right now, Chinese planes take a shorter route. They fly through the Russian airspace. But Trump wants them to stop doing that. He says it's unfair for American airlines. American airlines fly the longer route to avoid Russia. And this gives Chinese carriers an edge in time and cost. So the US is planning this new rule. Of course, China is not happy about it. 6 airlines have written to the US government. They say this move will raise ticket prices. It will increase travel time. Some flights could be delayed by up to 3 hours. But Washington refuses to budge. And this trend, this hardening of positions, is expected to continue. Ahead of Trump's meeting with Xi, he wants to build leverage. But at this rate, it is looking less like a negotiation and more like a showdown. Donald Trump had a dream to make America manufacture again. Steel, cars, copper, even furniture, all stamped with Made in the USA. So he brought out the hammer and imposed tariffs on the rest of the world. In theory, the plan was quite simple. Slap taxes on imports that will make foreign goods more expensive, so American consumers will turn to American goods. That was the idea. But the reality is not so simple. Trump's trade war has in fact turned into an economic boomerang. It was meant to hit the world, but it has hit Americans instead. Let me show you how. Who pays for these tariffs? In theory, it should be foreign countries or foreign businesses. But in practice, this is the cost breakdown. 22% of it comes from American businesses, 18% from foreign exporters, 5% is lost in loopholes and evasions, and the remaining is paid by American consumers. We're talking about 55% of the tariff costs, that is the remainder. 55% is paid by American consumers. These are tariffs that were supposed to benefit them. Instead, they've got inflated bills. And why is this happening? You see, at first, companies tried to absorb the pain. They tried trimming profit margins. They hoped things would cool off. A Harvard team, in fact, has tracked more than 350,000 products since March. 350,000 products. And here's what they found. Imported goods are now 4% costlier in the US. Domestic ones are 2% costlier because companies that once quietly swallowed costs are done playing martyr. A lot of them have hiked prices, and the costs have quietly trickled down the chain. They've hit the cash registers, and now customers are paying the price, quite literally. Also, this comes amid rising inflation. The US Federal Reserve, their central bank, has been fighting inflation for nearly 3 years now. The prices were just beginning to steady, but tariffs threw a fresh log on the fire. Here's what Goldman Sachs says. Trump's tariffs have added 0.4 percentage points to inflation. That could rise to 0.6% next year, so things could only get worse. And the Federal Reserve is admitting it. The Fed chair is a man called Jerome Powell. He says tariffs are to blame for the rising prices. Basically, tariffs have become inflation's sidekick. And who is footing the bill? Again, American households. What does it mean for the US economy? Well, it's not collapsing yet, but it is limping. Growth in 2025 is pegged at 1.8%. That is not recession territory, but it's not the boom that Trump promised. Economists say that tariffs alone could shave 0.5 percentage point off the economic growth. And it may sound like a small number on paper, but for a $30 trillion economy, it is huge. And while Americans pay more at home, they're also losing something abroad: status and mobility. The Henley Passport Index is out. For the first time ever, the US passport has fallen out of the top 10. It is now at number 12. A decade ago, America topped this list. Today, it sits in the 12th place, tied with Malaysia. Because the same America First philosophy has quietly bled into foreign relations. Brazil reintroduced visas for US citizens. China opened its doors wider to Europeans, but not to Americans. Vietnam and Papua New Guinea followed suit. Even Somalia just introduced a new e-visa system. It is available for everyone except the United States. This trend marks a loss of soft power. It shows what Trump's policies and politics have cost America. It's the ultimate irony of the America First strategy. In trying to make others pay, the US ended up taxing itself. It's round 2 between Pakistan and the Taliban. More airstrikes, more cross-border gunfire, more casualties, and a tense ceasefire. Forget the old patronage and alliance. This is the new normal between Pakistan and the Taliban, a relationship of violence and conflict. Look at what happened this morning. Pakistan launched aerial attacks on Spin Boldak. This is a city located in Afghanistan's Kandahar province. It borders Pakistan's Balochistan. Islamabad has released footage of their attacks. Take a look at this. Remember, this is Pakistan, so take all their claims with a sack of salt. Pakistan says they killed 15 to 20 Taliban fighters, but Kabul disputes this claim. They say Pakistan killed 12 civilians and injured more than 100 others. Local doctors are backing this claim. They say most of the wounded are children.
It was around 4 a.m. when the fighting began. Most of the wounded are children, and 90% of the casualties are civilians, including women and children. We have, thank God, prepared the ambulances, and all the injured, whether women or children, are treated here first and then transferred to Kandahar city.
This wasn't the only clash. Pakistan claims there were more operations, including airstrikes on Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan. But the Taliban has not confirmed this attack. They say an oil tanker exploded in the Afghan capital. Nonetheless, they retaliated. The Taliban carried out attacks across the border. Pakistan says they lost 23 soldiers in this Afghan attack. Islamabad claims it was the Taliban that started this round, and their morning attack was simply retaliation. But the truth, it's not clear yet. Last week, Pakistan did start the fighting. They carried out airstrikes on targets in Kabul. In response, the Taliban hit back over the weekend. That clash appears to have been deadly. Pakistan says it killed at least 200 Taliban fighters. The Taliban says it killed 58 Pakistani soldiers. Again, the truth? Nobody knows. We're talking about a very rugged border. It's more than 2,000 kilometers long. It is full of high mountains and arid deserts. So all this fighting is happening in very remote areas. Independent checks are virtually impossible. You'll have to depend on the official versions. Let me show you one such claim. These pictures were posted by the Taliban. They claim it shows a Pakistani tank captured by them. If true, it's a big win for Kabul because they are fighting a more powerful enemy. More powerful and more organized. After 2 rounds of fighting, both sides have called it quits. They have agreed to a 48-hour ceasefire. The Taliban say it was Pakistan that requested the ceasefire. The question is, will the skirmishes resume? Also, what is the root cause of this conflict? The cause is mainly the TTP, the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, also called the Pakistani Taliban, the TTP. They have carried out a series of attacks in Pakistan, and Islamabad accuses Kabul of supporting them, of sponsoring them. They say the Taliban offers a safe haven to the TTP. Of course, Kabul has rejected the claim. They say the TTP is Pakistan's own domestic problem. And the accusations run both ways. Kabul says Pakistan is supporting ISIS Khorasan, the South Asian wing of the Islamic State, ISIS Khorasan. It is active in Afghanistan. In fact, the Taliban and ISIS-K are rivals. The Taliban's goal is to create an Islamic emirate in Afghanistan. Their mission is rooted in Afghan nationalism. But ISIS-K, they reject nationalism. Their goal is to create a global caliphate. And this has led to multiple clashes in recent years. But finally, Kabul is pointing the finger at Pakistan, and frankly, it's not a surprise. Pakistan has supported the Taliban, the Al-Qaeda and anti-India terror groups for years. So ISIS-K is no surprise. Which brings us to the second question. Will the fighting resume? The Taliban is unlikely to seek a full-scale war. On the ground, they are experienced fighters, but they lack air power. They cannot match Pakistan's weaponry. So a full-scale war is unlikely. Eventually, we could see third parties getting involved. China has already called for calm. So have Saudi Arabia and Qatar. All these countries have leverage on both sides. They can talk to both Islamabad and Kabul. So expect them to step in firmly. As for India, this is a strategic opportunity. The tensions broke out when the Taliban foreign minister was in India. New Delhi is keen to expand this relationship, not out of love for the Taliban, but to cut down Pakistan's clout in Kabul. Looking at things from New Delhi, you can't help but notice the irony. Pakistan cultivated these terror groups. It armed, shielded and funded them. And years later, it is backfiring.
News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
We're learning that Supreme Court has begun pronouncing its judgment on the green cracker row. Do remember, we've seen clearly a divide on green crackers, a mix of anticipation, anxiety that's gripped Delhi. Supreme Court hinting that it may allow the sale of green crackers in the city just a week before Diwali, and that pronunciation has begun of the judgment. We're learning that the CGI said we've considered the submissions by Solicitor General and we have to take a balanced approach. Those are the first few comments that are coming in from CGI Gawai. The court is delivering its verdict. Many residents, remember, welcome the prospects of fireworks returning to the skies. They've called it an essential part of festive celebrations. There is another section, like I said, that's expressed concerns that weak enforcement could once again pave the way for regular, more polluting and noisier crackers, and it'll turn the city into a gas chamber and a boombox. Now, do remember, this also coincides very interestingly with the AQI picking up. The AQI in parts of the National Capital Region has crossed 200 and above. And that's a concern that National Capital Region residents are currently staring at. Comes this judgment by the Supreme Court. The verdict is being pronounced as we speak. The verdict essentially is around green crackers and whether they can be sold during Diwali festivities in the national capital. The CGI makes the first few observations. CGI Gawai says we have to take a balanced approach. We've considered the submissions by the Solicitor General. Now, there are green activists who are also speaking or who've broken their silence on this. The permission, if at all, is granted by the tone and tenor of the CGI. This is going to bring back the bursting of crackers within the legal ambit for Diwali, for perhaps other festivals like Gurpurab and Christmas as well. And this is going to happen after 5 long years. Green firecrackers, remember, bring that entire debate back to what it means for air pollution and how limited is really the consequence of this. They're designed to emit 20 to 30% less particulate matter than conventional ones, but the concerns still come with green crackers. And now we're learning in the latest bit of breaking news update that's just come in that the Supreme Court has allowed temporary sale of these crackers. The CGI has referred to the order of October 14, 2024, where Delhi government imposed a complete ban on firecrackers, which was expanded to entire NCR. And this is big news coming in from the Supreme Court. Speaking of how the need of the hour is a balanced approach, Supreme Court allowing temporary sale of crackers, referring to the previous order of 14th October 2024, where the Delhi government had imposed complete ban on firecrackers, which was then extended to the entire national capital region. Bursting firecrackers, though, only permitted from the 18th to the 21st. So just the few days in and around Diwali is when we're going to see this development in the national capital region. It comes with a disclaimer: bursting firecrackers only allowed from the 18th to the 21st. Do remember, a lot of people celebrating Diwali this year on the 20th, some on the 21st. So the crackers, the green crackers are only allowed in the national capital region from the 18th to the 21st. That's the latest bit of breaking news update coming in. Temporary sales of green crackers has been allowed in the national capital region. This is the latest coming in from the Supreme Court. And pretty much on expected lines, because the tone and tenor of the CGI suggested this. And like I said, there's been a lot of anticipation, a lot of anxiety around this. There's a certain section that essentially was waiting for this verdict, welcoming the prospects of fireworks returning to the skies. Others who are concerned that this is going to add to the air pollution problem that is already being faced by the citizens of the national capital region, with the AQI going up. Supreme Court allowing temporary sales of green firecrackers is what we're learning. Ananya Bhatnagar is sharing these details with us. So breaking down more details of everything that's being sent out by Ananya. The patrol team shall conduct regular checks, is what CGI Gawai said, on green crackers. on the green cracker manufacturers. The QR codes of green crackers will also be uploaded on the website. So this strictly is permission given to green crackers in the national capital region. This is not or doesn't include all firecrackers. This nod is coming only for green crackers. The Supreme Court making it amply clear that this permission has only been granted from 18th to the 21st October. This is temporary sale of green firecrackers that we're going to see in the national capital regions. Do remember, traders also were in favor of this. Several traders said that complete ban never works and bringing back green crackers can curb black marketing. Those are some of the reactions we heard of in the run-up to the Supreme Court judgment. I do want to go across to Shrishti Chaudhary, my colleague, who joins us with more details. Shrishti, you've been tracking the story very closely. How do you look at this? You know, there were mixed reactions in the run-up to the Supreme Court judgment. There's a small window that the Supreme Court has opened up for the residents of the national capital, allowing green crackers only from the 18th to the 21st.
Yes, Kritsveen. So, see, every year during October, the entire Northwest India, especially the national capital region, witnesses a severe deterioration.
Now let's talk about Mongolia. It's a country that sits between China and Russia. It is landlocked. It is the world's most sparsely populated country, best known for Genghis Khan and snow leopards. But now it's in the news for something else. Mongolia is rich in mineral resources. It is also emerging as a vital hub for connectivity in Eurasia. And India is courting it. This week, New Delhi hosted the Mongolian president. His name is Khurelsukh Ukhna. During his engagement, India has decided to fund an oil refinery in Mongolia. India will also extend free e-visas for Mongolian citizens and train the Mongolian border security forces. Our next report has more.
India is stepping up its defence outreach. This time in Central Asia, New Delhi will train the border security force of Mongolia. The announcement came during the visit of Mongolian President Khurelsukh Ukhna. Prime Minister Narendra Modi made the commitment publicly.
हमारा रक्षा और सुरक्षा सहयोग भी लगातार मजबूत हो रहा है। ट्रेनिंग कार्यक्रमों से लेकर दूतावास में डिफेंस अटैचे की नियुक्ति तक हमने कई नई पहल की हैं। मंगोलिया के सीमा सुरक्षा बलों के लिए भारत नए कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग प्रोग्राम भी प्रारंभ करेगा।
India and Mongolia already hold joint military exercises. They have now taken the next step. India will help train Mongolia's border forces. It's a first of its kind capacity building program for Mongolia. The training will include tactical skills and operational planning. It will also include courses in India. This isn't just about military drills. It's about institutional familiarity and long-term cooperation. India has also appointed a defence attaché to Ulaanbaatar. This creates a full-time channel for military engagement. Together, these moves deepen India's strategic footprint in Central Asia. Mongolia shares a long and sensitive border with China. It also has deep historical ties with Russia. For decades, it has balanced between both powers. India is now emerging as a third partner, not as a rival, but as a strategic alternative. By offering defence training, India builds trust and positions itself as a reliable partner in the region. This helps Mongolia diversify its security relationships and gives India quiet leverage in China's neighbourhood. The training deal isn't just symbolic. It's designed to build real capability on the ground. Mongolia wants to modernise its border force. India is stepping in with expertise and support. This creates operational familiarity between both sides. It helps Mongolia's officers understand Indian methods and systems. It also builds habits of cooperation which can matter during emergencies or joint operations. These are long-term gains, and they build slowly through training and routine engagement. Alongside the military agreement, India is using cultural diplomacy. Prime Minister Modi announced that India will send Buddhist relics to Mongolia. The gesture taps into a shared Buddhist heritage and strengthens people-to-people ties. India is also offering free e-visas to Mongolian citizens, making it easier for students, officials and pilgrims to visit. This training initiative also ties into India's economic presence in Mongolia. It is building an oil refinery there. It's the largest development project India has funded in the country. The refinery is being built with a $1.7 billion credit line. It is expected to be operational by 2028. Defence cooperation adds another layer to this relationship. It ensures that India's investments are backed by strategic trust. This makes the partnership more stable and durable. India's decision to train Mongolia's border force is significant. It marks a shift in the scale and scope of its regional outreach. This is about more than just one training programme. It's about creating long-term defence ties and building trust in a complex region. For Mongolia, it offers new support. For India, it sends a message that New Delhi is ready to act, ready to lead, and ready to expand its security partnerships beyond its borders.
We've heard of electronic cities, we've heard of film cities, but have you heard of an AI city? Well, India could soon have one in the city of Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh. This week, they got a huge boost. Google announced a massive project in Visakhapatnam. They will be pumping in $15 billion in the next 5 years. For what? To build a massive artificial intelligence hub, an AI hub. Once completed, it will be their largest outside the United States. This hub will have data centers, it will have renewable energy infrastructure and even multiple underwater cables. The plan is to turn Visakhapatnam into a global AI hub. You'll have underwater cables from around the world coming to the city. Think of it as a rest stop for these cables. And the potential is immense. The hub in Visakhapatnam will host infrastructure for top Google brands like Google Search, YouTube and Workspace. It will also boost AI research and innovation, and don't forget the jobs. The facility is expected to generate some 100,000 new jobs. So all in all, it's a big moment for Visakhapatnam. But the city is not done yet. This Google hub is just the first step. The state government's plan is to build an AI city around it. Basically, Google at the center and other AI hubs and projects around it. And we've seen this before. Think back to the experience of Hyderabad. In the 1990s, Microsoft was looking to expand outside America. They wanted to set up a new software development center, and Bill Gates chose Hyderabad. The rest, as they say, is history. Microsoft opened the floodgates for the city. Today, Hyderabad is the second biggest IT exporter in India. It is home to 1,500 IT companies. It also employs more than 600,000 people. Apparently, the plan is to replicate that. You see, Hyderabad is not part of Andhra Pradesh anymore. More than a decade back, the state was split. The state of Telangana was carved out of Andhra Pradesh, and Hyderabad became the capital of Telangana. So the Andhra state leadership is now investing in Visakhapatnam. The plan is to turn it into the state's economic capital, and that too within 10 years. Andhra's IT minister says Hyderabad took 30 years to reach this stage, but Visakhapatnam will take only 10. With AI, it's certainly possible because the multiplying power is very high. But Visakhapatnam is not just about tech and AI growth, it's also old school in many ways. The city is home to a major steel plant as well. In February this year, it produced 31 lakh tons of steel, 31 lakh tons. It's a monthly record for this plant. Another source of income is shipping. Visakhapatnam is the fourth busiest port in India. It handled 82 million tons of cargo last year. Again, the highest ever, 82 million tons. How is one city ticking all these boxes? Well, the location certainly helps. Visakhapatnam is located on India's eastern coast. It used to be an ancient port city. Kingdoms in the region would trade with West Asia and Rome, so Visakhapatnam had a head start. This location is also helping the city with AI because it's becoming a hub for undersea cables. Inland cities do not have that advantage. Of course, leadership also matters. The current Andhra Chief Minister is Chandrababu Naidu. He's known as a tech-savvy politician. When Microsoft came to Hyderabad, Naidu was Chief Minister. Now Google is coming to Visakhapatnam and he is again Chief Minister. This is not coincidence, this is policy. It should serve as a lesson for other Indian states as well. Some of them, in fact, have taken the first steps. Amazon is investing billions in Maharashtra and Telangana. Microsoft is investing $3 billion in India. They plan to build data centers in Pune and Hyderabad. Reports say even OpenAI is interested. So the AI wave is certainly coming to India. These companies need data centers. They need energy and skilled workers. It's a question of whether India can cash in on this wave. Our next story is about Argentina. Its leader Javier Milei was in Washington yesterday. He met President Donald Trump at the White House. The meeting came at a crucial moment for Argentina. The country has been battling a deep economic crisis. Prices are soaring. Its currency, the peso, is losing value. Investors are leaving and public trust is falling. President Milei has tried to fix it. He has cut government spending. He has fired tens of thousands of workers. He has reduced subsidies on electricity, healthcare and transport. But Argentinians are still struggling. And Milei's popularity has fallen. To add to his troubles, an election is coming up. Argentina will hold midterm elections on the 26th of October. Milei must win if he wants to pass new laws. Else, opposition parties will block his plans. Washington has been watching all of this closely and it has decided to help Milei. The US has announced a $20 billion support plan. And this is not a cash gift. This is a currency swap with Argentina, $20 billion, meaning the US will exchange dollars for Argentina's pesos. This move is meant to support Argentina's currency and reassure investors. But this financial lifeline does not exist in isolation. It is very much tied to politics. It is also tied to who holds power in Buenos Aires. And that is why Milei's meeting with Trump was so crucial. It was not just about economics, it was about the future of this partnership, and the message that came out of that meeting was quite clear. Washington is willing to help Argentina, but only if President Javier Milei stays in power. In fact, Trump said it out loud and clear on camera. Take a look at this.
We're going to work very much with the president. We think he's going to win. He should win. And if he does win, we're going to be very helpful. And if he doesn't win, we're not going to waste our time because you have somebody whose philosophy has no chance of making Argentina great again.
In other words, the American aid depends on Milei winning. And Trump repeated this again. He said, if Milei loses, quote unquote, we are gone. If you think about it, this has been America's policy all along. Their aid and attitude depends on who is in power. This is how they pull strings. But it's not something that US presidents usually say. Donald Trump is an exception. He says Argentina will get American support only if Milei wins elections. He has even issued a full endorsement of Milei on social media. But why is Washington so keen on Javier Milei? So keen on Argentina, for that matter? For two reasons. One is strategy. Argentina has some of the world's largest lithium reserves. Lithium is used in batteries for electric cars, smartphones, and energy storage. So control of this resource means power in the global economy. And China has been trying to increase its hold. Beijing has invested heavily in Argentinian mines. It has signed currency deals with Argentina's central bank, and it is building stronger ties with the government. Washington wants to limit that by supporting President Milei. The US hopes to keep Argentina in its strategic orbit. It wants to ensure that American companies get access to critical resources, not Chinese ones. And the mineral reserves are just one factor. Argentina is also one of the world's biggest exporters of soybeans. The crop is used to feed livestock and make cooking oil. China is a big importer. It used to buy soybean from the US, but thanks to Trump's trade war, China has shifted away. It is buying more from Argentina now. This has hurt American farmers and angered American lawmakers. So backing Javier Milei is also about shifting that trade balance. And that sums up the strategic reasons for America's investment in Milei. The second reason is politics. Donald Trump wants a like-minded leader in Buenos Aires, someone who shares his worldview. And Milei fits that role perfectly. He has cut taxes, he has removed regulations, fired public sector workers, backed America and Israel on foreign policy, and is a loud critic of West-wing governments in South America, of left-wing governments rather. For Trump, Milei is more than an ally. He is an ideological partner, a friendly face in a region where left-wing politics still dominate. Again, this strategy is not new. The United States has done it before, and not once but multiple times. For decades, Washington has tried to shape politics in South America, a region it considers its backyard. It has funneled money into campaigns. It has used aid and trade deals to sway voters, and in many cases, it has overthrown or destabilized governments. The goal has always been the same: to install friendly regimes. Today, the tactics have evolved. The moves have become more brazen. But the objective is still the same: to dictate who is in power in sovereign states. So Argentina's $20 billion rescue is less about economic stability and more about power. This is not a story of just one country or one election. This is a story of how economic influence is used to shape political destinies.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
We're learning that Supreme Court has begun pronouncing its judgment on the green cracker row. Do remember, we've seen clearly a divide on green crackers.
Itself battered for a second time in 5 months. Its tanks, viewers, are in Afghan hands. A number of them. There's been a wholesale capture of their posts, frontier posts, border posts. Second humiliation, viewers, in 5 months. First by India in May and now by Afghanistan. Along the Durand line, Taliban fighters have overrun Pakistani outposts, seized territory and exposed the hollowness of Rawalpindi's swagger. That man in the middle of your screens poses for the cameras. But viewers, that's all. General Asim Munir, who fancied himself a regional power broker, now stands revealed as a failed marshal, quite literally, unable to control his borders, his troops, or his country's implosion. There is a mutiny in every pocket today of Pakistan. I don't know where it's going to end up. In desperation, Pakistan dialed its allies in Qatar and Saudi Arabia to prevail upon them to broker a truce. And according to latest reports, the Afghans, after they were harangued literally by the Pakistani establishment for a ceasefire, decided to call it a day for just 48 hours. Against India, the same general went weeping to the United States, begging for a ceasefire. The question arises, are Pakistan's military myths collapsing under the weight of their own delusions? Because these are fundamental questions. Major Nadeem is with us. He's a Pakistani defense expert. He's talking to us from Karachi today. Dr. Ranganathan here with us, and Sushant Sareen, senior fellow ORF who knows Pakistan like the back of his hand. Sushant Sareen, I want you to first explain to us. I don't want to get immediately into, at any level trying to take a pot shot at the Pakistanis. There are just too many bullets flying around their heads right now. I don't want to complicate things for them, but I just want to ask you, Mr. Sareen, and this is a question that most Indians want to know answers to. How is it that the Afghans are being able to strike pretty much undeterred and nibble away at Pakistan's borders and even take some of their heavy machines, their tanks, etc. When Pakistan is this formidable nuclear weapons state with one of the largest standing armies, with all these allies, what's happening here?
So, Rahul, quite clearly, yes, it is a nuclear weapon state, but it's being hollowed out from inside. And you can take pot shots at them because most of the problems that Pakistan is facing, whether it's in POGB, POJK, whether it's in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or in Balochistan, are of their own making. It is that kind of colonial kind of an approach that the Punjabi elite in Pakistan has followed has resulted in these kind of problems. Now, the fact of the matter remains that, everything that the Pakistanis accused the Taliban of are what Pakistan has been accused of doing in the past. So, for example, they would tell us, and you would very clearly remember, they would tell us, well, if there is a terrorist attack in Srinagar, somebody has crossed the border and travelled 100 miles to Srinagar, why didn't your troops stop them? So this is exactly what the Taliban tell these fellows, that you have saturation number of troops on your western borderlands. If somebody has travelled and we are not aware of it and they come into Pakistan and attacked you, how come you have not been able to stop them? The Taliban deny that there is any TTP presence in Afghanistan. The Pakistanis made the show of attacking the TTP chief in Kabul, but quite clearly he wasn't there. He was in the tribal districts of Pakistan. So the lies of Pakistan, the kind of dissemble they have indulged in, is now coming back full circle as far as these guys are concerned. As far as their military prowess is concerned, let's be honest about it. They certainly have a far better equipped military than what the Afghans have. So yes, in a purely conventional conflict, the Pakistanis will always have an upper hand. But the Afghans are also not going to be stupid. They will neither fight on Pakistan's pitch and nor will they fight only on their own soil. If the Pakistanis are that brave, the Punjabis especially, they should go into Afghanistan and then occupy it and do a regime change, which they will not be able to do.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
We're learning that Supreme Court has begun pronouncing its judgment on the green cracker row. Do remember, we've seen clearly a divide on green crackers, a mix of anticipation, anxiety that's gripped Delhi. Supreme Court hinting that it may allow the sale of green crackers in the city just a week before Diwali, and that pronunciation has begun of the judgment. We're learning that the CGI said we've considered the submissions by Solicitor General and we have to take a balanced approach. Those are the first few comments that are coming in from CGI Gawai. The court is delivering its verdict. Many residents, remember, welcome the prospects of fireworks returning to the skies. They've called it an essential part of festive celebrations. There is another section, like I said, that's expressed concerns that weak enforcement could once again pave the way.
There are few moments in life when you stop and think, I really should have listened to my parents. If you're in India, congratulations, this is one of those moments. Gold prices are shooting up to a record high, even higher than your relatives' expectations. And now every single financial decision you made feels like a crime. Remember buying that iPhone? That OTT subscription you thought was essential? The vacation you splurged on? Yes, all that money could have been shining in gold right now. Of course, the internet was quick to share its regrets. Take a look at this. And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. Israel releases new footage of hostages reuniting with families after 2 years. Indonesia's volcano erupts, covering roofs in ash, and a deadly fire guts the roof of a monastery in northern Italy. Finally, we are taking you back in history on this day in 1940. Charlie Chaplin's biggest box office success, The Great Dictator, premiered in New York. It was a satire on Adolf Hitler. This was the first major Hollywood production to make fun of the Nazi leader. Hitler personally got the movie banned in Germany, but reports suggest he watched it more than once. We are leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.
Hello and welcome to the late night edition with me, Ayushman Singh Jamwal. Lots of stories to cover in this bulletin, ladies and gentlemen. We're starting with some breaking news that's coming in the ongoing fight against red terror across the country. Breaking news coming in after a large group of Naxals gave up arms in Chhattisgarh. Home Minister Amit Shah has hailed the historic milestone. He has said, and I quote, the most effective districts have been reduced from 6 to just 3 and affected districts to 11 from 18. A huge